All right. Okay. So today we're talking about how to start a dressage club. Um, I'm going to be asking you guys your opinion throughout. If you have thoughts, comments, feel free to throw them in the chat. Or if you have any questions at any point about any of the slides, feel free to throw them in there as well. Okay, let's begin. So what we're going to look at today, kind of like a broad overview of the topics, is setting expectations for yourself as a budding club owner. How do you choose a name? This also includes a horse and an outfit. How do you go about putting together a brand kit? What does that mean? How do you get started with social media? And then how do you advertise? Because really, the first like 1 to 6 months, sorry, when if we first start, 0 to 6 months is really you're just trying to get your name out there. Sometimes that can even take up to a year. So that advertising portion is pretty crucial. All right, let's just start with setting expectations. So before you even, I would say, get started on any of the other things that go with starting a dressage club is setting expectations for yourself. So think about, why do you want to start the club? What's your motivation? Do you really love dressage and you want to teach others? And like the best way you can think of doing that is through owning a club. Um, have you maybe been in previous clubs and you're like, oh, I really liked this, and I think I could do a good job doing it as well. So like think about why. What's the why? And then the second important thing is, how much time do you have each week to devote to managing your club? Um, Depending on like how organized you are, how much you want to get into it, it's really like a part-time job. You're spending anywhere from like 10 to 20 hours a week, sometimes even more, doing behind the scenes stuff. So that can be like organizing and then hosting practices and events, tracking attendance, um, like keeping up with like all the little things that your members need help with or their concerns, uh, maintaining a certain amount of activity within the club. Because if you as an owner are absent, then your member is going to be like, why am I here? The owner's never around. You're like their role model that way. So how much time do you have to devote week per week? And then also think about month per month and even year over year. Can you sustain X amount of activity over time? Because if you get into it, maybe like you get started and you're like, oh yeah, I can like be in on Discord like all day, every day, chit chatting, and then that sort of level of activity is too hard for you to maintain, and then you burn out. And that's something that you want to avoid. Because burnout is not fun. All right. Why is my Here we go. Yeah, don't love burnout. Yeah, it's nice to avoid burnout if we can. Okay. And then another thing you can think about is if you have any past experience as a staff member in another club. Maybe you've never owned before, but maybe you were a staff member. Like maybe you were a leader or you were like a mod, for example, and you kind of had a look at the all the behind the scenes work that needs to go in. Maybe you had certain responsibilities that you can transfer over to the club that you would like to start because you already kind of got a feel for it. And maybe you learned some important lessons through that process, or the previous club you were in, or clubs, the owners were good role models to you, or maybe they made some choices that you didn't quite agree with, so you keep that in the back of your head. You go, I'm not going to do that kind of thing. I learned from their mistakes. And then the last important consideration that you want to make is, do you have the necessary experience to host and instruct? So I think it's quite rare to have a dressage club where the owner doesn't know enough dressage to be the one leading practice. Because also too, in the first, I want to say like 3 months, 6 months, even the like 12 months, like a full year, you are often the only person who is hosting events and practices, depending on how quickly you grow. So you need to think about, is it within your capacity to teach dressage, to, if you want to do competitions, to write routines and teach the routines? Because if you don't have that capacity and maybe you advertise your club as that kind of environment, but you can't do it, that's going to be a big letdown for your members when they join if you aren't ready to provide that kind of leadership, if that makes sense. So I would say for yourself, in terms of your dressage knowledge, you'd want to be probably the like advanced or the elite level. So that means you're quite comfortable with like you can learn new moves easily. You can come up with your own moves. Maybe you already have past instructing experience with another club or team, or you've also had experience writing routines, because that will just make it easier for you as you get into making your own club. Okay, so those are the points I have. Do you guys have any like ideas of like what other kind of things you'd want to think about before starting a club? Like things that might be important to consider before you jump into the joys of club ownership, which Toy likes to say, oh, to be an SSO club owner when stuff happens. Are there other things you might want to keep in mind? Another thing I can think of is a lot of people kind of get stuck on like, I need a co-owner to start a club. Not necessarily, it's nice, but um, you just also want to set expectations for each other, like how do you handle the responsibility of club tasks. Yes, that's a good one, reality, and we're going to get into it with the next slide. Yes, you don't want to be too similar to other clubs, of course, otherwise you won't stand out from the crowd. People are going to be like, I've already seen that concept or that theme. Yeah, how do you make yourself unique? Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, let's get into that section then. So, choosing a name, horse, outfit, theme, etc. All right. So when you're considering those three elements together, do they work well together? Are they cohesive? Do they make sense? Or is like, for example, your name is Golden Bees. I'm just picking a random name, and your outfit is trying to think of a color that wouldn't make sense. Gray and red, for example. Gray and red and green. So it's like Christmas colors with some gray, but it's a golden bee club, which usually bee clubs are yellow, orange, right? So that doesn't make sense theme wise. And then, like Reality mentioned, is the combination of the name, the outfit, the horse, and the theme that you choose, is it unique or different enough when compared to the current dressage landscape? So one thing you can do is you can do some market research ahead of time. So if you're on Instagram, for example, you can kind of look for some popular SSO tags and kind of scroll through, seeing what other clubs and teams are doing, kind of get a feel of like how they interpret certain themes or club names. Uh, Often sometimes too you'll see like one like certain outfits are popular, like this certain hat you see a lot of clubs using, or this certain jacket, or people are really using this horse a lot. Like I think when the new Frisians came out, a lot of clubs switched over to that Frisian. So can you pick maybe a horse that's more unique, or it just makes really good sense with your club name, your theme, and your outfit? All right, so we'll just do a little exercise. Okay, so I've done three outfits here, just as a little exercise. And then if we're using the name Ocean Heroes, I'm so sorry if this is already a club that exists, I'm using it as an example. Which of these three outfits would make the most sense with the name Ocean Heroes? And then is there one outfit or more that maybe wouldn't make sense? Uh, could we maybe change out the horse to make more sense with one of the outfits? What do you guys think? Which outfit could potentially make the most sense for Ocean Heroes as a club? I'll let you guys tippity tap. And while you're tippity tapping, I'll just the first one for reality. Yeah, it's like purple, like a purpley with a gray horse. I will say with club names you have less choice, especially if like somebody's already picked the name that you want. You might have to get a little creative there. Jenny says the second, the coat. You change the horse. The horse. You think the horse coat matches Ocean Heroes, or you would change the horse coat? You would change the horse coat. Okay, yes, I agree. Yeah, so like the middle one is like more of like an indigo kind of bluey color, so that might be more ocean leaning. But I think the first one could work too. And then Jenny is saying, well, you would maybe pick a different horse coat. Middle outfit, yeah, gives more ocean because it's blue. You could argue the other two are like things in the ocean, like jellyfish. Yeah, I don't think there's very much red fish. I think that's like an uncommon color when it comes to like sea creatures. I mean, you could maybe do like a magical sea creature that's red. Yeah, changing the horse. I agree. The second one, if you change the horse to like maybe like a gray or maybe a blue roan, might make more sense for the ocean theme. Yeah. So these are things you can consider. Maybe you start out not with a name, but you start out with an outfit and a horse that you really like that go really well together. And then you look for a name that makes sense with that outfit and horse that you've picked. There are also some names on SSO that are like more flexible in that way. Like, for example, like Perfect Saddles. Like you could go with any theme with that. It's not like it's kind of sticking you with like ocean, which people think more like blue or nautical. Or for example, like bees, like we talked about earlier, like more like gold, orange, yellow. You can have some names that are kind of like more flexible there. Or if you're making a dressage team, you can pick whatever name you want. So the only thing with dressage teams is that you want to kind of like be pretty thorough about researching, does this name already exist in the community, so that you're not like inadvertently copying somebody else. And then another thing too I want to say about dressage team names is I see some really fancy names, but sometimes like they're too fancy, if that makes sense. It's like, how do you pronounce this? So I guess if you pick a really fancy name, be ready to like teach people how to pronounce your dressage team's name because it's a very uncommon word. But I guess that's the joy of creativity with dressage teams. Okay, beautiful. So yeah, so you could go from choosing your horse and your outfit first, and then pick a name from there, or you could do the reverse. You pick a name and you try to make outfits and choosing a horse, kind of that way. Okay, let's keep going. So the third little segment is the brand kit. So what is a brand kit? So I have an example here I just found on Z Google. So it's somebody made a brand kit for a skincare or a spa company. So a brand kit is a visual language that represents your club and makes it easy to identify via a quick glance. So can you guys think of some clubs or teams that you can recognize easily, like on your Instagram feed or in game? And then what makes them easy to spot to you? Like what are some that stand out? Um, Like one of my friends is in Terrific Tigers, so I often see them in my feed. And TT, they have the Jorvik Wild Horse, the striped one, which goes with the tiger name, and they have their orange outfit, and they use orange as like a strong kind of visual signal in all their posts. Like that's part of their brand kit colors. There's always orange included. That's one, kind of like a pretty obvious example in the dressage community, but that's how TT stands out. And also you can think about like how cohesive their whole kind of like image is. They have their name is Tigers. They're using orange. They're using the tiger striped Jorvik Wild. So all that together makes for a cohesive image. Um, I just yap about the club I'm in, Crystal Pirates. Color is purple. Um, and then like grays, kind of like a warm kind of like ivory, indigo. Um, Toilet does a lot of the edits as the owner of Crystal Pirates. A lot of crystals kind of used in the edits to reinforce kind of like the crystal in the name. So I'll just wait for you guys to tippy tap. Tippity tappity. Um, Two other clubs that I can think of that I see on my feed is Dragon Whispers. They're very consistent with their editing as well. It's always very strong on the red and the black. Um, so when I'm like kind of scrolling through Instagram, they just kind of pop out. Yep, Sunforce for sure, Jenny. Yeah, they have very consistent kind of like that golden yellow editing. Oh, Toilet wrote a list. Yes, Saturn Mains with the bright blue, Sea Vikings with the dark green, and the Magic Fjords. Yep, PQL, of course. Yeah, PQL is a standout with the pink and gold. And also too, like their editing style is quite consistent as well. They're often using pinkery shades. Um, yep. Emerald Hunter is the green for sure. Yep, Beck is really good with that. Wicked Crow's emerald and orange. Yep. So like we remember these elements of these clubs because they're consistently using their brand kit. I don't know if they set one up like specifically, but you can identify them from kind of like their brand image or the colors that are associated with them or their horse or the reshades that they use, for example. Yeah. So going from there, what should be included in your brand kit? So generally you want to think about 2 to 4, maybe even 5 brand colors that you use consistently. So you could maybe take a note of the hex codes of those colors, put them in a Google Doc, or using Canva. Uh, think about selecting some brand fonts. Yeah, Toilet has the hex memorized. Uh, your brand fonts. So maybe this is like 3 to 4 fonts that you use consistently. when you are, for example, doing Instagram stories and you want to have some text on there, or if you are maybe making like infographic type posts for your socials, you're always using consistent fonts. Um, and then also to like formats for posting on your socials and in your Discord open server, so it's like clean and organized each time you post. So maybe if you're using like special fonts, using like Lingo Jam, for example, or you're using like the Discord formatting, or there's little emojis that you use. It's just like consistent each time you post. So it's very like reinforcing your brand. Each time you share information with your audience, you're just kind of reinforcing. This is who we are. Aren't we great? Look at us. We're consistent. That's your brand kit. You can also think about potential logo ideas. So I think too, a lot of times when you're a prospective club owner, you might get a little hung up on the logo. You don't need a fancy logo to start out with. It can be like, something that you made up in Canva, or maybe sometimes some artists make like free to use logos. And it's just kind of like a generic logo that you can use to start. And then maybe once you've like committed more, maybe you've been owning the club for a few months and you go, okay, now I'm ready to um, maybe look for someone who makes a free logo or to pay for one. But I wouldn't say you need like a fancy logo right out the gate. Not necessary. And then the next thing to consider with your brand kit is how polished do you want to be? The more polished you are, the more it tends to give off like an organized vibe and like a professional vibe. But if you're like more casual, it can feel like friendlier and more approachable. If you want to keep, for example, your Instagram like more polished, like curated, then you can have like your TikTok for your goofier posts, or you can have like your Instagram stories for like silly moments, or like a meme account too. You have an Instagram meme account where you just post all the silly things that your members are doing. But generally, your feed is like more curated. It's kind of like a little museum as your club, showcasing all the highlights and stuff. Okay, so that's a brand kit. And again, you can make this in Canva. This kind of like even this sort of thing, like the example, if you wanted, so that you can reference it. Your staff members can reference it. If you have editors from outside your club, you can send them the brand kit so they know like what colors to include, what fonts, etc. Okay, that's the brand kit. Let's talk about social media. All right. So this is like your overall social media preference. Keeping in mind preference, presence, keeping in mind your brand kit. So in general, Discord is a hub for everything prospective members need to know about your club. And it's also an avenue for keeping in touch with the wider SSO community. Um, what do you guys think should be included in an open server? Like, are there certain things that you always look for anytime you join open server? Maybe some things that are fun to have. What do you guys think about that? What are like the necessary things? FAQs. Yes, that's a good one for sure. Yeah. So you can refer people to it, or you refer yourself. Question channel is a good one. Yeah, if you have questions. Spot the club members. Yes, that's always fun. Yeah, kind of encourages the community to keep an eye out for you. That's a good one. Roster rules. Yeah, about the club or team announcements. These are some good ones. Requirements. Yes. Yeah, these are all good. Application information. Yeah. Yeah. And then if you're not sure about like what you should include, you can like join a bunch of open servers of maybe clubs that you look up to and kind of look like how have they organized it. You can get some inspiration. Self promo channel, yes. Photos of the club outfit is a good one too, yeah. All kind of like the information about the club that people should know. hmm Yeah. And then you can also have like uh maybe also a section for if people want to get in touch with you about like club collabs or like information about open events, that sort of thing. So yeah, so like the Discord server is like for prospective members to have all the information to know about the club, how they can join partnerships. Yeah, if you want to do that. Partnerships are good. And then also as a way for you to keep in touch with the community at large. How can you connect with other peeps? We can all kind of like help each other, that fun stuff. If you're overwhelmed about making an OS or even a closed server and you're like, I don't know what to do, Club Cliche is a community server for SSO, and there's a lot of people in there who will offer to help you set up your open server, your closed server, including bots and auto roles. They can even help you with making banners and headers and stuff, and even logos. So if that's something that you're struggling with, you're not sure where to start, there's lots of friendly people in there who will help you out. All right. Next, social media, Instagram. So like we said earlier, this is more of like a curated feed of your club, kind of like a little museum, where you can like showcase updates, important moments, milestones, etc. What's important with Instagram is the algorithm rewards consistency. So if you can like batch prepare content ahead of time or just be consistent about posting at the same time each week. So for example, when you're thinking about your expectations as a club owner, can you go, okay, for the Instagram, I would like to post once a week. Is that something that you can realistically commit to? So you can batch prepare content in advance. So like maybe get your club members together for a photo shoot, take a bunch of little cute photos, and then that's the photos you use over the next month or month and a half. And you maybe you do some edits and stuff as well. So yeah, consistency is really important for Instagram. Right now too, they're really pushing Reels because they want to compete with TikTok. So those you don't have to be as like scheduled about posting them, but you could maybe have like some video of your practices or events that you could turn into a reel, or maybe you have some video edits that have been done. Or you can also be more silly in reels. You don't have to be as polished in the reels as like your regular kind of feed. To be a little more goofy there. I've also seen some clubs doing TikTok trends, like recreations of their SSO characters, and those seem to do quite well with reels as well. So if you have some members who are interested in doing that with you, that could be fun. I see reality is typing. Do you have some suggestions for Instagram? Twitter, YouTube. Yes. X is not Twitter X. Say Twitter. Twitter is not so much geared towards sharing content. It's still very much a text heavy platform. I don't personally use Twitter for SSO stuff, so I don't know what it's like for clubs and teams on there. I feel like Discord and Instagram are the biggest. TikTok is getting there. Um, but yeah, you could definitely use YouTube. So like YouTube Shorts, if you have short form content, or if your club is uploading, for example, routines or maybe you're showcasing like something that you've come put together with practices, or if you even record like events, you can put them out there, and that's a way for um, members to get a feel for like, or sorry, prospective members, potential members to get a feel for the vibe of your club if they can watch like one of your events, for example, on your YouTube channel. That can be fun. Yeah. But I find that most people gravitate towards Discord and Instagram right now. TikTok is kind of getting there, but um, not as much. Um, So yeah, TikTok is more for video edits. You can be less curated than Instagram. The algorithm is a little tricky over there. It's more about volume than anything else. And then you can have like more goofy or silly content. Or like we said earlier, you can have like a meme page on Instagram where you put all your silly stuff on. And then last but not least is a website. I wouldn't worry about this at first because that's generally a bigger undertaking. It requires a lot more organization and planning, but it does give you more options when it comes to aesthetics than a Discord open server. You can really like organize stuff how you want, use colors and shapes how you want, put images where you want, all that good stuff. And then the options that I see the most for building your own website as a Star Stable Club is Wix and Weebly that are free. I think otherwise you do have to pay monthly to host a website. But social media. Do we have any other thoughts about how different social medias could be used, or maybe ones I haven't mentioned? Snapchat, for example. Can you imagine? I'm sure there are some Star Stable clubs on Snapchat, but yeah, that'll be a little different. I don't think the format is very suited to it, but card, yes. Yeah, if you have a card or a link tree or that sort of thing. Yeah, for all your links. Mm-hmm. Blue Sky, yes. Practice time streaks, yeah. Yeah, Blue Sky is like Twitter, so they're more text based, and Star Stable Dressage particularly is very visual. Pixel ponies and stars, yeah. So yeah, I don't know so much about Twitter and Blue Sky, but I mean you could try, and maybe it like gives you a little leg up in the arena of trying to get your club noticed. Who knows? Who knows? You can always get creative. Okay, let's go on to the next. The next slide. All right, advertising. This can cause a lot of headaches for peeps, especially when you're first starting out. You're like, oh my God, how do I get people to find out about my club? I put so much work into it. Um, so what avenues of advertising can you leverage? Get the word out. People know how great your club is. Look at everything I've done. So we talked about social medias already. Those are all advertising avenues. We've already mentioned consistent style is more eye-catching and pleasing. So like the clubs we discussed earlier, they kind of stick out because you learn to recognize them. You don't even need to see their handle above the post. You're like, oh yeah, that's Terrific Tigers, or that's Pink Queen's Legacy, or that's Gold Hearts, or that's Saturn Mains, etc. You just recognize them from the way that they edit or their colors, their brand kit, fonts, for example. Um, like Beck also does a great job from Emerald Hunters whenever they produce like informative kind of infographic type posts. It's all very consistent, the branding. So just like, oh yes, I know them. I see them. I know them. I love them. So consistency. And then, like we said, consistent posting schedule, especially with Instagram, is rewarded by the algorithm. So more things that you can do on Instagram, if you're spending like, I don't know, like 20, 30 minutes just scrolling, take the time here and there to comment on other clubs' posts and to share their posts. If you do that fairly often, they'll be like, oh yeah, like, I'll just use Crystal Paris as an example. Crystal Paris keeps on commenting on my post. That's very nice of them. Oh, they just posted. I'm gonna go leave a comment and I will share their post to my story. You kind of start to build those relationships there. What's important with those though is that you leave more of a comment than just like an emoji or like, this is great, because often the algorithm sees that as kind of like junk comments. So like maybe respond to something that's included in the caption or like comment on the post itself, like, oh wow, like the editing is so pretty, or the colors you used here are really nice, or I love like the lighting or whatever. Try to make it a little bit more unique than just the fire emoji. I mean, the fire emoji is great, but uh, yeah, there's not much there. When it comes to your own Instagram posts, make an effort to write engaging captions because that is more likely to result in people leaving their own comments. So, does the caption include something that they can reply to? So maybe you're like, oh, like we have a new trial batch coming in. So maybe people can say in the comments like, good luck to the new applicants or the new trials. Or maybe you ask a question somewhere in the caption, they can reply to that. And that kind of makes it easier for them to leave a comment instead of just like, I don't know, you put a post and you're like, I'm trying to think of like a really generic caption. We've been really busy like over the past 2 weeks. We hope you're all doing well. That's the caption. There's not much for people to reply to in that. So sometimes it can get a little tiring writing captions, but get other people to help you. Get your sibling, your mother, your dog to proofread it, give you suggestions, all that good stuff. You can also use your stories to engage your followers. So you can use like the question, the polling features, um, and just kind of get them to engage with you that way if you have the time. Can you guys think of other ways that you can kind of like engage with your audience through Instagram? You guys have other ideas for that? Live streams, yeah. I have seen some clubs do live streams. That can be a little nerve-wracking, especially if you're not used to speaking to an audience. Making polls is another good one. Yeah, yeah. Or also I've seen ones where like people are like, um, ask me for like my opinion on your club or whatever, and then you'll put your club name in, and they'll be like, oh, like wow, like your horse and your outfit is so cute, or I really loved your last routine or whatever, like stuff like that. Interacting with them through stories. Yes. Yeah. So instead of like, because a lot of people will just because it takes less effort, they'll scroll and they'll just like stuff and they won't comment. But the algorithm really likes comments. So when it sees comments, that's like, I don't know, 10 times more worth more to the algorithm than just a like, if that makes sense. Because somebody had to take an extra, like, I don't know, 20 seconds to leave a comment or to share to their story compared to just hearting your post. So whenever you can kind of engage people a little more, that's good. Okay, that's Instagram. Discord. Uh, so this is kind of where you can. It's easier to communicate through Discord, I find, than Instagram, and it offers you more opportunities to do that. So using Discord, you can look to collaborate with other clubs. So maybe in your open server, you have a section dedicated to like how to set up a collab with us, all that fun stuff. And this is a great way of cross promoting each other because you're generating content for your socials and you'll mention each other. So maybe like during the collab, your members are taking stories, you're taking stories, and you're tagging each other. At the end, you have like some photos that you've taken. You post the photos, you tag each other in the photos. In your open server, you mention, hey, we just had a collab with this club. It was great. And then maybe some of your guests join their club, and then maybe some of the guests in their open server, sorry, join your open server. You guys cross promote your open servers and your Instagram through that. The collabs are really good for that. And it kind of creates too, if it goes well, like a longer lasting relationship and you guys kind of support each other, you promote each other, all that good stuff. And then also too with collabs is like, don't be afraid to reach out. Like, don't be shy. Most of the time, people like appreciate that message from you. And even if like you're just a new club, you're just starting out, even if the club you're approaching is medium sized or large, they won't say no because oftentimes they remember when they first started out and how hard that was, and they'll want to support you and kind of give you a little boost that way, if that makes sense. So don't be afraid to reach out. But also too, I will say with collabs, you don't want to fatigue your members with them, so don't like overschedule them, if that makes sense. Try to space them out a little. But you'll see as you get more into the flow of club owning, how often do collabs make sense for your club in terms of like you organizing them with the other club owner or staff, and then do your members get tired of them if there's too many, one after the other. Like in general, I think like one or two a month is sustainable if you're really like on track with keeping them organized. But even like 3 or 4 a year, probably fine. Okay. And then self promo, which is people really don't like to self promo because it's boring. But this is one of the best ways to grow your open server is to just join a bunch of other open servers and go into their self promo channel and put your self promo message. It's tedious, but it works. Most of them have a 6 hour cooldown, so you can usually, I would say, try to do once a day, but you could do twice a day. If you do like in the morning and then in the late afternoon, evening, you get twice doing the self promos. Um, but what I'm curious what you guys see in self promo messages. Like if you're scrolling, like kind of what catches your eye when you're scrolling with self promo. Are there some that are like you stop and you actually read them? Or some of them you're like, that's not interesting enough for me. I'm just gonna scroll by. Like kind of like what makes you stop and look at a self promo message? Location of the club and the horse. Yeah, those are important. I definitely do appreciate when like the location is near the top. Because otherwise, if I'm having to scroll and like read line by line, are they in North America? Are they in Europe? Are they in like South America or Australia or whatever? If it takes me too long, I'm like, ugh. Big gifs, yeah, are a good one. Eye-catching text, yeah. When it's okay, Jenny says, I dislike when it's huge, when it's small, clean, somewhat professional. So like, what's the good balance of enough information so that it like kind of like entices people to join, but what is too long that they're like, oh, TLDR, I don't want to slog through this whole thing and click on the join thing at the bottom. So those are good points because what you can do as well with your self promo message is you can experiment. So you can start out like maybe the first time you're gonna send self promo, you go through and you kind of look at what other people are doing and you take inspiration from that, from like maybe several that caught your eye, and maybe you try using that self promo message for maybe like a couple weeks and then switch it up. Try something different. Maybe it's your fonts that you're using, your emojis, the length, how stuff is organized within the self promo, time of day that you post, and maybe see if that kind of like brings in more people relative to your previous message. Um, Keep some suspense when they join the server. Don't reveal your entire hand. That's funny, Jenny. Just reveal enough to get them hooked. Yes. Yeah. Um, yeah. And self promo is kind of like it's like a chore, but like one way you can make it kind of fun is, for example, if you have your members or your server staff. they have a unique invite link, and you have a bot that tracks that invite link so they can have a bit of like a friendly competition of who can get the most people to join the server. So maybe that's a way you cook up some interesting self promo is like through your members and your server staff kind of figuring out different ways to make the self promo look inviting. Um, the other thing though with self promo is you might be tempted to use a lot of fancy fonts, like using like a font thing like Lingo Jam. But that can make it hard to read. And also too, some fonts don't show up properly on a Mac or an iPhone when compared to an Android phone. So uh yeah, you just want to be careful because like it might just show up as like boxes, like literally squares. Like the font is squares and they can't even read what you've sent. Um, so just be careful of that. So then you might just want to stick to like the Discord formatting. So like making the font bigger or smaller or subscript, um, or like bold, italic, underlined, strike through. Trying to think of some other some other options. So yeah, just be cognizant because especially if you're like in the Apple product bubble, which I am, I have a Mac and an iPhone. If I'm not considering how Android users see stuff or PC users see stuff, they might not even be able to read my self promo messages. We can use colors. Yes, I just recently saw that. Like the more you know. Yeah, there's some formatting for using colors. Yes. But then you'd want to test how does this look in dark mode? Does it look in light mode? Because if you format the self promo just so it looks nice in dark mode, but you have some light mode users, they won't be able to read your self promo again. So yeah, just kind of considering like how does everybody see my beautiful self promo message? I want as many people to see it as possible. So yeah, the joys of self promo. I personally have a little contest. I don't think Toilet is aware of this, but I'm trying to catch up to Toilet's invites in the Crystal Pirates open server. Getting there slowly but surely, catching up. Yeah, and I had a lot of invites, but I accidentally deleted my old invite link because it wasn't working anymore. It was like buggy, and then it like put me in the negatives for the amount of invites I had. So I had to slowly crawl back up into positives. It was a little silly. Okay, so that is the last little bit. I just wanted to ask if we have any final questions while you guys are potentially tippity tappeting. Um, I just want to say that keep in mind that it generally takes anywhere from like 3 to 12 months to get your club off the ground. If you see a club grow really quickly, it's generally due to the owner coming from a newly disbanded club and they had some members follow them to their new club. They're already well known in the SSO dressage community from a previous club or team, or they're a popular SSO content creator. So when you see a club blow up, it's usually for that reason, like really fast. So if it takes you a while to grow, longer than you expected, don't get just discouraged. It's just the nature of like how many clubs and teams are competing for people's attention. Um, so yeah, so don't get discouraged. I see some people like change change their club, their theme, their horse, their outfit, their name several different times. But it's like if you really love your name, your theme, your outfit, your horse, just stick with it. Stick it out for like at least 3 to 6 months because it just takes time for people to find you. And don't get discouraged. We've all been there. Yee. All right. We don't have any questions. We're all Gucci guacamole. We'll end the clinic there. Guys have been an amazing audience. The trio. Next time, maybe I do this. I won't do it so late or so early, depending on which time zone you're in. But yes, thank you so much for coming. Have a lovely evening. I'm waving at my screen. Good night, good morning, good afternoon. Happy time zone. All right. Good time zone, yes. Have a lovely rest of your day or night. Bye.